friends, we're here today to talk about the books that we read for the Run Right Reads book club in March. I know I'm a little late or a lot late with this video, but I fell behind and I just wanted to come on here today and get back on schedule. If you're new to my channel, maybe you don't know, but the Run Right Reads book club is a book club that I started, and this year we're reading books that are set in the Caribbean, and every month we choose a different Caribbean country or territory, and we read 2 novels written by 2 different authors and use that as a way to explore the country. So each month, like I said, we're going to a different place, and in March we were reading Puerto Rico, which is an American territory in the Caribbean. And so the novels that we chose were The House on the Lagoon by Rosario Ferre and The Taste of Sugar by Maricel Vera. And these were recommended to me by Lisa, who goes by Literary Latina Latinx, not sure, on Instagram, and I'm not sure what her YouTube profile is. But another Puerto Rican booktuber that I would recommend that you check out if you want to know more about Puerto Rican literature, check out Alba at Seriella. She lives in Puerto Rico and she talks about Puerto Rican literature all the time, so you can get other recommendations from her. But they were both there for the Run Right Reads book club Zoom discussion when we read these books, and so I got their, we got their perspective, we got their feedback on these books, and I think we all agreed that these books are pretty fantastic in how they center the experience of Puerto Rico. So I'll talk about this one briefly first. Rosario Ferre and Alba from Seriella told me this because I didn't know. She told us, not just me, I'm saying me because I'm the one talking to you, but she was telling us in the book club discussion. Rosario Ferre is the daughter of a politician a Puerto Rican politician, and so she lived a life of privilege. Her father was a millionaire back in the time when being a millionaire was, millionaires were few and far between, I guess. And her father was one of those artistic patrons. So in this book, she doesn't mention her life of privilege, but she novelizes it, I suppose. And so in this story, we're reading about a family of means, but we're seeing some of the sacrifices that they make in order to hold on to their wealth, and what it looks like for the people in the family, whether money buys them happiness or not. Money doesn't buy you happiness, but we get to see what that is really like. In this book, we're reading about a family, like I said, and we're reading from the perspective of one woman in the family, and she's recounting the stories of her ancestors and her husband's ancestors primarily. What's really unique about this book is that we have a main character who's writing a novel, and we have interspersed chapters or feedback from her husband as he is reading her manuscript and commenting on whether what she's writing is true or fictional. And I thought that was such an interesting writing style, writing technique, because the author gives us almost 2 sides of the same story and asks us as the reader to choose who we believe and whether it's okay for a family member to write about the family and novelize it, take instances and blur the details or kind of muddy up the waters with perspective and your thoughts, your feeling about motive and so on. And then here's the husband who's a historian coming in and saying this is not how it went, except when she writes favorably about him, and he's like, finally she's telling the truth. This was really interesting to read. The title, The House on the Lagoon, refers to this family home, and it's built by a Spanish immigrant. He came from Spain to Puerto Rico. We're exploring how he makes his fortune and what he does in order to make money, how he builds this house on the lagoon. And we see the impact that the house, the building of the house, the architecture, and the life that the family has in this house, all of what that nets, the whole experience. This was fantastic. I think that this was a really great way that the author chose to show us life in Puerto Rico. She showed us the difference between people of means and people who are struggling. She talked a lot about race and race class discrimination. We see some of the tendencies that they had to discriminate against people of African descent in terms of marriage. What's really interesting about this and the house on the lagoon at the center of this novel is that two families are inhabiting this home. The family of means lives upstairs, they live in the main house, and their servants, extended African family, a family of African descent, live in the cellar. And we get to see the strength that each part of the family or each family has and how they exert that power. Very interesting. I don't know how many people have heard about this book, even though it was a National Book Award finalist from several years ago. I don't know how many people have read this book, so I highly recommend that you check this one out. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Puerto Rican history, about Puerto Rican culture, or if you're just looking for a book that is really well written, I highly recommend this one, The House on the Lagoon by Rosario Ferry. The other book that we read was The Taste of Sugar by Maricel Vera. This is a much newer release. I think this one came out last year, and a lot of people here on BookTube talked about it, so I'm not going to dwell on this one too much. But I also really enjoyed this one. What I really liked about this one is how the author talked about the experiences of women, what women expect from life, and what other people think that women should get. So in this one, we are reading about a young woman who has dreams of traveling the world. She wants to be, I guess, the modern woman, but she's living in the late 1800s, early 1900s in Puerto Rico, and that's just not the expectation that anyone has for women. So this story centers on a woman named Valentina, and we are seeing her expectations and her dreams for her life, but we're comparing that with the expectation that the society has of her and, you know, to a larger extent, women. The role of women, the role that women should play in families and in society, and what their lives should be like. So Valentina, when we meet her, she's 16 or 17 years old, and her family wants her to marry an older man. This man is, at first they say he's 40s, 50s, and then later they say he's 50s, 60s. He's an older man, and her parents are kind of pimping her out. And you know, when we meet her, she's getting ready for this party, and you see the way they primp her physically, but more striking is the advice that she gets from her mother and from her older sister about what she should do to catch this man and what her life will be like, what she should expect from a relationship with this man, and also what she shouldn't. You know, talking about what she could get from life if she marries this man, and what her responsibilities would be, and so on. And so we get to see how she makes a choice, not for this man but for someone else, and what that choice is like, her naive expectations, her naive decision making process, but also what that results in. So this was really interesting because I love how the author centers on the experiences of women, how women treat each other, you know, who they gravitate towards, and how they kind of cling together and exclude other people. So kind of like these cliques that would form, and you're either on the outside or on the inside, and you can't really penetrate those barriers unless the keepers of the door want to let you in. In this one, we're also exploring the relationship between Puerto Rico and the United States, and we're reading at a critical time in the history when Puerto Ricans are fighting on behalf of the United States in the Spanish-American War and still feeling excluded. So yes, we're talking about those cliques in terms of relationships that people have, but we're also talking about getting access on a political spectrum. So I thought that this was also a really fantastic read because the author gives us this very interesting family dynamic and personal dynamic to contemplate, but it's of course an allegory for a much bigger insight on the story of Puerto Rico and its history with the United States. So again, another fantastic read, so I'm highly recommending both of these books. So far, the Run Right Reads book club has been knocking out winners. So if you want to join the Run Right Reads book club, you are welcome to do so. It's an open book club. All you have to do to join the book club is read the books. So I'll link in the description box down below the books that we're going to be reading in the upcoming months. Read them along with us if you can. And whether you want to join in our Zoom discussion, we meet on the last Sunday of the month and we have a Zoom discussion. So if you'd like to join, let me know in the comments comments, I'll send you a message with the link so you can join. Or if you just want to comment on these videos afterwards, that's also fine. We'd love to chat with you about these books if you have read them or the future books. So thank you so much for watching this video. It is really windy outside, but I wanted to make these videos outdoors because, you know, we're talking about the Caribbean. I'm hoping to make these videos outdoors as much as I can to kind of give me that Caribbean experience. I don't know, it does not feel like it's Caribbean here. It's cold. But thank you so much for watching this video. Give me a thumbs up, 2 thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let's chat in the comments, and until next time, happy reading. Bye.